All right, everyone. Good afternoon. Welcome to Food Festival. Thank you for sticking around all day, making it through the groovy lines for lunch. I'm terrified being up here, my first time live in Bangkok, and I wanted to talk to you about waste today. And for me, the biggest thing in culinary world today is wasted talent. So I think we spend a lot of time talking about our valuable endemic ingredients, and for my side, the most important ingredient that we need to worry about are people. So I think we need to be talking not just about farming of products, but farming of ideas and the growth of the people that work for us. It's been so inspiring today to listen to so many different suppliers, so many different generations of chefs and amazing people. And I just want to talk a little bit about a few of the people that make Room for Dessert so special. And, well, that's really it. I think the most meaningful thing that I can do is to help in the development of our team. So I had a friend of mine, her name's Norma Jean. You can find her hashtag Norma Jean Loves Doodles. So she did a few little chickens for me because I was very nervous how to communicate with such a young and visually based audience. So I have a lot of little chicken cartoons coming up. For me, the last year has really been about finding inspiration. Everywhere I go, well, everywhere. This is the first place I've been this year, but in general, everywhere, if you count this place. Everyone's been asking me, how did you get here? So today was pretty easy because I'm just around the corner at Anantara, so it's just a few hundred meters. But the last year, I've been worrying about writing a book, which incidentally will be out April 6th. And we weren't able to coordinate getting some copies here on time, so you'll just have to trust me and look at some of the desserts. But one of the things that I did want to share from the book, I'm not going to recount the details, but one chef who I admire very much wrote the foreword for me. His name's Albert Adria, and he trained me about 20 years ago. So before most of our audience was alive, I think. And I guess for me, really, everything that I've wanted to do in my career is just to inspire one person the way that he was able to inspire me. I'm clicking on mine and not on yours. So we're going to start by going through some of the people that work at Room for Dessert. This is Koming. So Koming's been with me now more than 4 years. In addition to becoming an excellent bartender, he's received his high school diploma and is now getting his university degree. It took him about 90 days to pass all of the information that I could get him for the bar. So the last 3 years and 9 months has been committed to trying to find other resources for him so we can get him to the next level in his career. Whether that's personalized training, whether it's in Indonesia, whether it's abroad, Singapore, you name it. We've been working on getting him further along in his career and teaching him the difference between being a great bartender and being a leader of people. So currently, I kind of call it the birds and the bees talk for the restaurant, which is about the essence of development, being that building something that's more than the sum of its parts. So that's about where he is right now. But where you can see him in the desserts, this is something we call the sugar refinery. This is kind of one of our signature desserts. We'll be talking about this tomorrow at 4:30 in our masterclass, which I believe, if you ask Lisa very nicely, there may be 1 or 2 spaces available. But one of the things that's so amazing about this dessert, you'll see right now, we were able to pick up some sugar from a plantation in Patum yesterday because it seemed a bit ridiculous to come to a sustainability conference and bring your own sugar on the plane. So you're getting to taste some of the palm sugar. It's totally different from the one that we have in Bali. It's very light, it's very creamy, and I was terrified that it wouldn't work at all. So one of the people you'll see later in the presentation has been working with it all day to make sure that our meringue still works. And I got to talking with Dylan about this process when we were at the farm, and we realized we're really worrying about the same thing, whether it's the personnel or the producer. And that's how do we get these amazing artisanal products available without destroying the essence of the products being artisanal. So we know that we cannot get all the way to industrial. So what's the answer? For me, it's maybe kind of artisanal plus plus or artisanal with access, or one of the things that we spoke about was more people that see the value of these products so that they're interested to develop them. And that was really the idea of this dessert. It was how to make palm sugar cool again. And we started working on this almost 10 years ago in Bali, still working on it, and even the version you'll see tomorrow is totally different and unique. But what's interesting about this is the finishing touch for the sauce, which of course you cannot see because of this bullshit abstract style that we use for the book. There's a delicious sauce that we make from boiling down the fresh nectar from the coconut palm that we deglaze with a mix of liquors. And that mix of liquors is the recipe from the Boulevardier that Coming made for us in the bar. So this is something I like to come back to. Our job is very easy. Maybe doing it every day is not so easy. Coming is a great bartender. He's great at organizing the bar. He does great inventory. He knows how to measure drinks. He knows how to train staff. But at the end of the day, nobody really gives a shit about that. They care that when they come to the restaurant, he knows their name, and he knows what they like to drink, and if he doesn't, he finds out. And that's our job, right? To take care of people. Now, our next step is really to create this same feeling with our staff, that they are the guests of the restaurant. Once we are able to provide this standard for our guests, our paying customers, we try to find that standard for the customers that we pay, whether that's our guests or our suppliers. And we need to make sure they understand that we are always there for them. So I guess being in the very romantic style, we're going to continue along. I think the saying is if you love something really, you have to let it go. So in this case, Grace has been with me for about 5 years, starting at Coup d'etat and Mejakawi, and then we stole her for the opening team at Room for Dessert. Last year, we sent her to Bray to work with Dan. I don't know if Dan is still here. If he's not, don't tell him what I'm about to say, but we were so scared to send someone from our little bar to his restaurant. We spent all year trying to get her ready to see what it would be like to be in a place like that. Because we tried to do something nice, but we are not a serious restaurant in that way. And since we felt that Grace had outgrown what we could show her, then we needed to bring either the world to her or her out to the world. So in fact, she survived. She was hired. And then amazingly for us, in the huge success, she came back. So now she's working on our new menu in the restaurant at Room for Dessert. This is one of the desserts that kind of shows something really special about Grace. She's somebody that makes things very effortlessly, maybe without following. She can learn the science or the process or the technique, but if you give her the ingredients and tell her what you want, it will come out. So in this case, this is our first plant-based dessert. My daughter is now vegan, so it seemed kind of ridiculous to have a restaurant if your own daughter can't even come. And then on the sustainability side, I mean, really in 30 years, probably all pastry will be plant-based, because what else will we be able to work with? So to be frank, we are really, really far from somewhere we might want to be. It's really difficult to make something that people relate to, they have a memory of, that has this kind of creamy and crunchy and satisfying texture without animal fat. It's really difficult. In this case, we cheated a bit. We made a mousseline from coconut fat with aloe vera. We did all the usual bullshit, zero waste, gimmicky things, like the ice is a juice of the fermented core of the pineapple. The sauce is a coffee we brew from the roasted pineapple skin. So it's super trendy and whatever. But what's great is the chips are kind of scraps from the pineapple and soybean water, which Grace was making because, like another recipe in the restaurant, no one else can make it except for her. Hers always works and everybody else never works. Let's see where I am now. So yeah, well, I think maybe we have this idea. Wow, 5 to go or 5 already? 5 to go. I'm not even close. I'm way behind. Let's zip along. We're talking about building a team, and this is really like writing a symphony. And I think that one of the things that we suffer from is not developing the necessary skills in our next generation of cooks. This is Andre, who has actually one of the 2 copies of the book that we produced, which I don't even have. And Andre's been part of the growth for the last 3 years and really was critical to the production of the book. He did every recipe with me, did every photo, did every page. But even just a year ago, we were having the heart-to-heart in an alleyway behind a restaurant in Singapore about the importance of not giving up, not quitting. Because at the end of the day, everybody else will quit and you'll still be there making dessert. So amazingly, I've had 2 generations of that already behind me, so we'll see how we get to now. This is an example of the first dessert that we did together. The tuile is a water of the cooking liquid from purple potato. And then the salad or the chutney is all the scraps from all the different preparations in the restaurant. And actually, it's photographed on the first plate that my mom got as a kid. This is another important one for me. Sometimes pastry chefs get a bit obsessed with technique. And this is a catastrophe. It's just as much of a catastrophe not to pay any attention to technique as to pay too much. But I think we try to balance our technique together with our instinct and our intuition and our caring. And this is really our recipe for sustainability. This is Carlina, who manages our bakery. Let's see. So I'm going to go to my Instagram generation. I believe our hashtag here is ReFood. So one of the things I'm struggling with all these young people that work with me, most of whom started around 16, is why it's important to make something right. The best thing I can come up with now is it's nice to make something pretty. And then we work back to delicious and then back to interesting. But Carlina's been pretty amazing with it. I think this one speaks for itself. But in the vein of this slide, this is IU, who's definitely she definitely just does her own thing. She just came back from a year abroad in India. Am I loud enough, or am I just flaking in and out? I'm pretty loud. She's managing our medicinal herbs garden, which we just planted in the corridor next to the restaurant. So we have 200 square meters now for medicinal herbs, all of which she's planting. This is the dessert she was most integral in making. We call it Dessert of Mankind. It's built on a story of the foundation of Indonesian independence. And this is honeycomb, actually, from IU's garden. So I think it's something very luxurious to be grateful with opportunity right now. It's very easy to blame all young people for being sort of shifty and no priorities and lazy, which I think mostly is true. But I think you can either complain about it or try to do something about it. So the most important thing is to try to show why these things are important. Well, this is Chatri, who's sitting in the back of the room. I'm sure she'll be very embarrassed to see herself up on screen. The reason that I get to walk around like a big shot all day is because she is in the back taking care of all the recipes, as well with Chef Paper, a great friend of mine based here in Bangkok. So Chatri is now into our 4th year, and the reason she's able to do the event, I'm going to be a little over if that's okay. How tight are we? Jared, can you give me 2 more minutes? Great. She's been with Bolan for the last month. So it was her first trip abroad to really work, and again, in a proper restaurant in another place. She's basically been with us from the market to the canteen to the pastry department, and brings me to one of our really important lessons in Bali, which is the importance to listen to the smile. This is a dessert I wanted to share. We call it the color of money. It's a version of a crepes cake, like a really old school layered crepes, but we do it to order. But the sauce is a curry from moringa, which is the first recipe from the first Balinese buffet that Chatri prepared for us. But we leave out the garlic. We are not very edgy anymore. So one of the things that Bali's really taught me is to be less certain of myself, to be less judgmental, to be more willing to try new things, to be more understanding, and to see really what it's like to walk a mile in someone else's shoes, which, well, no one in our restaurant has walked more miles than Nyoman. So this is the man that's literally built the restaurant, from laying the foundation, from cleaning the tiles since before we opened the restaurant. And then from Nyoman, who's the soul of the restaurant, we have to come to essentially the dessert version of Nyoman. This is our Choco Bubbles. We've been making it for 20 years. We tried to get rid of it, and now we don't even try anymore. It's very simple. It's cookies and chocolate. There's nothing to it. But it reminds us to be humble and to make sure that we don't forget that actually people being happy is the reason that we have a restaurant, not an incident. And that's really all for me for today. I wanted to say thanks to Dylan, Bo, Lisa. Thank you, guys. It's been amazing. Please remember, our job's to create leaders, not to create followers. So look forward to joining you on the adventure. Thank you.